Right. Oh, let me get everybody in. Wait a minute. Right. Now everybody's popping in. Welcome, 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 welcome. Man, good to see everybody. Everybody's coming in. Good, good, good. We got some more folks. What's up, John? Good to see everybody. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi. Let me change my name. If we got anybody that doesn't know me, let me make myself clear. If you can put if you can just rename and just put where you're from, where you're at, even better, whatever. Just I would like to kind of share with the group, everybody, so we can kind of get our feeling. I see Georgia on the call and I see Pennsylvania on the call. So if you can just give us a quick little space in the rename in those three buttons at the top and just tell us where you are for those that are coming in. All right, Mavis is in Sparta, New Jersey. All right, for those that are just joining us, all right, Oregon, okay, West Side. All right, good, good. All right, for those as we're just coming in, we're just kind of just represent where you're from, where you're at a little bit so we can give a little idea. All right, Elizabeth's out in Utah, good stuff. Okay, Hoboken, New Jersey's deep today. All right, I like it. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I am going to put well, first let me welcome you guys. I just jump right. Kamal always gets on me about I just go, right? Kamal was like, hey, how's everybody doing? Good to see you. Let's get a shout out. We got an hour. I'm just trying to get in. So part of let's just go, right? So I just put a Padlet board in the group. I mean, we are recording this. We'll save it for the community. A lot of times people that can't make these calls really like to get the CPR. It's one of our most requested links. So these are really good. We're helping a lot of people with that. So just grab that Padlet, just open up. We're just going to use that. One, if you like, you have some questions, you just want to get out, you want to make sure you ask about the CPR protocol, feel free to drop it right in there. On the introduction piece, we kind of did it with our shout outs, but if you want to just kind of put your name, if you want to share an email, like we want to be able to build a practice group as well. So if you want to do an introduction there, to just put some information as people can contact you, however you want to do that, it's totally up to you. But in the first column where it says, where did it go? In the first column where it says questions, if you have any questions that you definitely know you want to get answered, you can drop it there, right? So we'll kind of start with that. But what we're going to do to kind of give you an idea, we're going to refresh on the CPR protocol. And then we're going to come with some problematic statements. I'm not going to give you guys scenarios. I really want you to think about what you've encountered since you've been through a long talk, or what kind of conversations have you had? And let's bring some of those problematic statements out. And we'll go into some breakout rooms. We'll interact with each other, literally practice it again, come back and debrief, and then be an hour better, right? So that's kind of the plan for the day. All right. If anyone does want to kind of start off with a win or some reason, like why you're here, I only say why you're here. If anyone since you started and you learned the CPR protocol, anyone that just wants to share a win or a challenge, like what brings you here to learn more and to push forward, I'll just kind of open the floor to anybody if you want to share just anything about the CPR protocol, what it's meant, what for you, or what you've been able to do with it. I'll just open the floor.
Kyle, I have a win. It's not specific to CPR, but I was presenting in our DEI advisory board yesterday and got somebody else to sign up for the community conversation. So
awesome.
Little win yesterday.
Absolutely. And that's a win by spreading the CPR, right? That's a win for the CPR by equipping more people to be able to do it. So absolutely. Thank you for that, John. And you guys have a big call coming up with Penn alumni over the next couple of days. I'm looking forward to I just got the numbers, over 100 people from Penn alumni will be going through a long talk over the next few days. We start tonight and tomorrow, and they do it's like the NBA finals. We're like every other night. So, but we're looking forward to that with you Penn alumni. It's something they literally push to their entire alumni base. And that's the first one they've done with that. So that's been good. Other thoughts, other wins. Thank you for that, John. Any other thoughts or wins about the CPR protocol? Yep. Go ahead, Mavis.
Again, not CPR related so much, but I think I mentioned the other day that we were showing who we are at church up in Boston, and it was a fairly small attendance, but people were amazed and clamoring for another showing and inviting people in their community groups and so on. So it really went well.
That's awesome. And it really is about, again, just continuing to spread the information. And for those that don't know, when she mentioned who we are, if you know, depending on when you came through a long talk or where we were with this, the Jeffrey Robinson video, the 80-minute video that kind of is our foundation, was made into this full-length feature documentary. If you haven't seen it already, it's on Netflix. So it's another way to share the actual message with someone that may need a little bit more cinematography with it, if you will. But it's basically the same information he shares there. He does it in a Who We Are project on Netflix as a documentary. Sony Pictures picked it up, and it's a good way also to just kind of keep fighting with your battle there, or the war on ignorance. All right. Anything else? Any other thoughts or any other? All right. All right. Any question? Well, let's start with, well, first, let me make sure, has everyone that's on the call, because last time we had someone that just kind of jumped on the calls that hadn't seen the CPR protocol. Is everyone on here you've gone through a long talk, you know the CPR protocol, and we're here for a refresher? Or is there anybody that's like, I'm not even sure what it is, I just want to know what I'm learning for the first time? Anybody for the first time?
Hi, I'm brand new. I had a colleague suggest this program, and this was the first thing I saw on the schedule events coming up that I could attend. So I'll be doing some research online at the same time so I could stay caught up.
Awesome. Well, here's what we're going to do. That's fine. We're going to give you a quick, we're going to do a refresher anyway. So we're going to talk about what it is and bring it back for everybody. And what I'm going to use for the refresher is our CPR protocol study guide. So we do have a study guide. What I try to do is make it a real short, it's a tiny URL. I'll put it in the chat, but it's just tinyurl.com/CPR Prot, P-R-O-T. So that's the short one that gives you this protocol study guide. So I'm just going to use this to kind of refresh everybody, and also welcome my New Jersey. Is it Olivia? Where'd you go? Okay. Yes. So this is the idea. When we've been having these conversations before, and when we talk about interrupting racism, because that's what we're talking about. And again, it's not just racism. We're interrupting. You can interrupt all types of ignorance, sexism, anti-Semitism, anything that just is a problematic statement, you can use the CPR protocol to interrupt. And so the way this works is that the first thing is you got to get in the right mindset. And we don't want to argue with people. I'm not trying to fight people. So we're looking at people as a lesson, not an enemy. And just literally, I want to know, what can I learn about why this person thinks like this by listening to them? And maybe I can teach them something to move this along, but at least I'll learn how I can sort them, where they are in this, and whether they're trying to be a part of the problem or part of the solution. I'll know when I finish this conversation. So it's really a lesson in all of that. The way that we get to this lesson is that we show people that we're here for a real conversation. And the way you do that is by finding common ground. And you find common ground with the CPR protocol by listening. The better listener you are, the better you're going to be at this. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. If you use them in that proportion, you're going to be fine. Because most people aren't stupid or mean, but if they don't feel like you're listening to them, you're just waiting to talk over them, they'll double down on stupid or mean. Like, so we got to be able to listen and then see, hey, you know what? And you tell people stuff like, I heard what you said. Think I know what you mean. I might think I know why you might believe something like that. I've let you know I've listened without having to agree or capitulate my point. I have to try to prove anything. I'm just letting you know I'm listening to you. When you've heard enough, though, like when you've heard and you realize this person doesn't care about people, doesn't care about information, just wants to be in this space, that's okay. We have a hard pass for them. Like, we don't have to keep going back and forth with you. I just need you to say this stuff out loud, to really claim it, to understand the impact, and I'm good. I just want to know who you are in the room. So for people like that, it gives people an opportunity to say, if you want to dive in and double down on this stuff, fine. But you also have a chance to back up off of it. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. All right. So we call it the CPR protocol because it's an emergency. And I need you to treat it as an emergency, right? So clarifying, probing, and recognizing questions are what we're going to ask to interrupt ignorance. I just have this belief that critical thinking is like kryptonite to ignorance. Like, it literally exposes it, it weakens it, it makes it run away or fight for it. But it exposes it literally because it makes it look at itself, and its ignorance is just it's hard to really rationalize it. So what you do is, when somebody makes a problematic statement, again, whether it's sexist or misogynistic or racist, whatever it is, instead of trying to get them to hush, I want you to amplify them by making them say it again, like out loud for everybody to hear, and really mean what they say. Like, say it with your chest. By asking you to clarify the little part that might be a little bit covering or confusing for people, I want to know what you mean when you said that part, like they can't do. What does that mean? They can't do any better. Like, what do you actually mean when you say that part? Like, I want to hear that part being amplified. Because when they do that, now it gives them a chance to first stop and say, you know what? That's not what I was really, okay, well, then thank you. Then what were you really saying? I want you to correct yourself. But they also have to then double down and be like, that's what I mean, that Black people can't do this or women shouldn't do this. That's what you, okay, you mean that. Okay. I'm not going to argue you, but I just want you to own that you really mean that all women of all sorts, doesn't matter. That's what you believe. Boom. Okay. And you move to the probing question. Because now that I know your information, and whether I'm going to call your information flawed or not doesn't matter, it's your information. You own it. Right. So your logic has brought you to that belief. I just want to know if you realize how that makes other people feel when you say stuff like that out loud. Like, now I'm just trying to get you to understand, can you believe that stuff, but just leave it outside? Don't bring it into the workplace or into the book room, or don't bring it into this conversation. Like, you can believe that, but do you understand the impact it has? How do you think it makes people feel when you say stuff like that? And usually the people that they're saying it about are not in the room. So it's you and your white friends talking to their feelings about Black people, or you and all the guys talking about somebody makes the joke about women. Like, usually the other person's not in the room. So this question actually brings that person in the room. How do you think it makes the Black people feel when you say that? They might look around like, well, there's no Black people here. That's why I said that. We say, well, how do you think it makes me feel when you say that? Like, how do you think it makes me feel when you say that? Like, the question is, do they have the empathy to realize that this is a problematic statement? And if they're not saying it around Black people, they actually do know it's problematic, but why you keep saying it to me? Like, why is it you don't think it's a problem for me? Like, why are you including me in your ignorance? I'm not part of that. That's the separation part. So if they can start to even empathize why people might feel it a way, you can ask them, what do you think would happen if you supported Black people in our space more than opposed them? Or like, every time an issue comes up around women, you're always on the opposition. I'm just curious, how do you think that would make people feel, or how would that be more productive? You see, I'm asking these questions not about the issue. I'm asking these questions to get to the root cause, right? And when this last piece of the stop and share, the share and step, that's because I don't want you to have to go back and forth with people. Like, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions. I'm just going to drop, here, you should watch this video. I think I know where you might get some of these ideas from. So let me drop this video on your lap. Call me next week. Let's talk about that. Here's an article I read, or what do you think? Here's a story I heard. What do you think about that? Like, and just walk away. Your job is to interrupt racism. It's not to change that person's mind or their heart. It's to change that space right there. Like, I always use the no smoking thing. Making no smoking zones didn't make people stop smoking. It made them stop smoking around me. It's the same mentality. You can keep your stuff. You just can't be comfortable enough to say it, believe it, and believe that I believe it. That's what we're doing. All right. So hopefully, Liliana, we gave you a quick. Oh, I will give you this because I want to show. Well, I'll just say to you, Liliana, on your let me share my screen real quick again. I'll give you this full piece because I want to make sure. So the biggest mistake people make is that they don't ask enough questions. When people are doing the protocol, the biggest mistake I see all the time is they ask the first question. When someone answers, they might say some crazy stuff. So now they feel like I got to tell them everything they're supposed to know about that statement they just made. No. Don't tell them what to know. Make them think about what they need to know by asking them the question that challenges the logic break. That's what we're doing. So we're just asking questions that challenge your logic. Racism is not smarter than us. Hate is not more complex than us. So I'm just going to ask a question that makes you go, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. All right, I'm going to ask you another question. Oh yeah, that's about people's feelings. Yeah. So just keep asking questions. All right, I'm not going to show this part because most people have seen it, but there's a practice video right on here. We're getting ready to practice anyway, but there's a video you can use. And we even give you, I think, a quick little checklist and a flow chart. Like, just keep pushing with questions. Where are they going to go with the questions? So this is that CPR protocol study guide. I'll put the link in the chat when we're practicing, but this is something you can keep on your phone. You can pass on to anybody with that tiny URL. All right, so let me stop sharing. All right, so what I want you guys, so any questions of it, and whether you wrote it or not, since I went through the refresher, that might jog some questions. Any questions about the process from anybody?
I do have a question, Kyle.
Kyle, I have a comment, not a question. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay.
That's okay. One of the things that I'm coming up against when I'm confronted with this type of situation is people who deny that they meant what I know they meant when they said what they said. And to be more specific, for example, I'll have a teacher talking about how insistent or how oppressive a conversation was with a Black parent. And I know that insistent and oppressive is code word for something, right? But when I say, well, would you tell me more about why you think that? Would you tell me more about, they immediately, and I don't know if it's because I'm Black and they're like, oh crap, I messed up, or if it's because my job is the diversity person and they're like, oh, wait, let me backtrack, whatever it is. I immediately get a backtrack and a clarification like, oh, well, no, I didn't mean da 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 da. And so I don't know, other than just being like really direct, like, yeah, you did. I don't know how to get around that piece. What is your suggestion for that?
So when you think about, and I think this is a kind of a shift, right? When we think about getting around it, right? You want her to understand and change the way she thinks and believes. That's good. That's a deep root cause. But as your job is to eliminate that in your workspace. So whether she believes it or not, what she has to realize is that that's the second question about the impact that what she said has on other people. You said, like, so now whether she meant it or not, that first question, and that's why you ask her, what do you mean when you say oppressive? See, I would push to say to her, what else in the school, in your job as a teacher would you describe as being oppressive? Because I want to figure out what that means for you. So if she's like, well, nothing. So nothing else in this whole job experience for you has felt oppressive except talking to this one Black parent. That's what you're saying? Right? Yeah. How do you think that makes the Black people around you or the Black people feel that and to use what is your definition of oppression? Would be another question I ask.
Okay.
What so has this person robbed? Because that would show her what oppression against Black people has been. This is oppression right here. When you can't go to school, when you can't, what is your just so we're using the same word, help me clarify. What is your definition of an oppressive conversation?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got you.
I want to really clarify it because what I'm trying to do is show this person not that whether she ever believes that you were right about this word. She needs to feel what she's doing in your space and choose not to do that anymore.
Okay.
If she does it again after you've had that conversation, now she's told you what she means in the first place. Mm-hmm. Now she's done it with her action instead of you trying to have a word salad battle with her. We're not going to do that.
Okay.
Does that help a little? Yeah. So that's why the second question, because I want to help you, because people can clarify on the first question and totally lie on themselves and back themselves up for good standing. We won with that because now you're just taking your cigarettes outside.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you still a smoker. You still a smoker, but you just can't walk up in here puffing. My fault. Let me back that up a little bit. Yeah, now I want you to understand what people feel about that. So now you can choose to be the sensitive about it or rough around the edges. That's totally up to you, but we're moving in this direction. Where you going with that?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you for that. Yeah. John, what you got?
It wasn't a question, it was a comment. Just I listened to a book recently on negotiation, Never Split the Difference. And I think it just validates what you're doing here is where you turn things on the people you're negotiating with open-ended questions and until they come to see your point of view. And so, it's right in line with this CPR protocol.
Yeah, and I think that's a great, this is not a new, I think it's new to this approach, this conversation. You're right. People have strategies for sales, how to win friends and influence people, talk about drawing people in with curiosity. Like, a lot of this stuff comes from life skills we've had, but because we have been so entrenched with fighting an enemy in this, no one ever thought about, well, let me just, because what I realize every day is I pick up a new person that I thought was an enemy that's not. At least if that can get them to not be my enemy loudly in front of me, that's a win. Like, y'all know I practice on Twitter. I've been in some battles the last couple of days on Twitter, and they're because they stretch me. Like, I love having to ask. I love when people say something like, I don't really have a question for you yet. I'm going to come back to you in a little bit. But when I come back for that question, it made me a better questioner. So I will tell you that there is a there is a muscle to train in this. You know what I mean? There is and it comes from a lot of places, but there is a good muscle to train that the better we get at this, it's proven effective in other places. We just have to learn how to apply it here. So that's good. All right. Any other questions about just the general practice or general, anything in general before we get to the problematic statements and start practicing? Okay. So what I want to do, I'm gonna show you the screen again. Go back to the Padlet board, and on the problematic statements, what I just want you to do is we'll take about a minute or two to just think about some things you would like to practice the CPR protocol against. Like, what are some things like Marianne did? We just did that practice of something that's real. What's a real problematic statement for you that you can put on here that we're going to take into our breakout rooms and practice? We're going to get about 15 minutes in. Yeah, perfect. And then we'll come back and debrief. So go ahead and drop some problematic statements, whatever is on your mind, whatever you're thinking about. I'll put one I just heard. I just heard this statement on a playground. Oops. All right, we'll see about another minute to start filling those in. Keep filling that in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into some breakout rooms. If you could put another one on there, if you want if you have another one, feel free to put more than one. And then we'll go into some breakout rooms for about 15 minutes and keep the protocol up, have your practice session, and we'll come back and debrief. We'll be good with that. All right. So I'm gonna get these breakout rooms together. All right. So when we get into the breakout rooms, one person just make the statement. I know we want to give context a lot of times. It's actually a lot. Just go with it because it will save some time and you don't necessarily have to give a bunch of context. You're trying to find out the context by asking the questions. We don't need to assume too much about it. So just one person get in, make the statement. Another person step up with the questioning. Another person just going to observe 2 to 3 minutes. Just go through it, see where you get. Give some feedback, jump into another one, try for everyone to get a chance to practice. So in 15 minutes, spend about 5 minutes on each scenario and everybody get a chance to practice and then we'll talk about it. So all the rooms are open, jump in and we'll see you in 15 minutes. To it.
Marcus, first of all, you were awesome. Let me start there. But the reason I say you were awesome was from a couple of specific things you did. One of the things that you first did is you kept turning it back to the other person and asking for their thoughts. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that? Do you have any thoughts on that? And I think that that enabled the other individual to feel like you really did want to listen to what it is they had to say. Whether or not you agreed with it, you really wanted to hear it. So I thought that was helpful. Then another thing that you did consistently is you kept coming back to the point, do you think everybody feels that way? Right? I'm not sure that everyone feels that. Is that the experience that everyone's having? You kept going back to that. And then another thing you did that I appreciated is you put in your own perspective. Well, you know, I felt like this when that happened. And so I think, again, connecting to your personal experience, you know, you can't refute someone else's personal experience. So once you did that, the person kind of had no option but to say, well, yeah, okay, that was your experience. And then finally, you said, I can understand part of what you're saying. And so just in saying I can understand it, again, gives that person the image that, and you said it toward the end of the conversation, which keeps them engaged and keeps them willing to sit there for that close that you created. So sorry I got cut off, but that was what I was going to say.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like you got whisked away by aliens, right?
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that. And it was helpful for me. Since I don't really get to go. I don't like to go in the breakout rooms because people want me to talk in the breakout room. But I usually don't get to hear that feedback. So I hope the feedback everyone got in their room was as good as that. I mean, like we're really listening and helping each other by saying, this is what you did well. I mean, maybe there's anything he might have done better. Like those are the kind of like real feedback, because you can practice this stuff and have a, kind of some, good conversations. But I want you to spend another hour of your life practicing this after this. And I think you can be really, really good at it. In one more hour of good practice, the next time you get hit with something, you won't panic. You won't be lost. You'll be like, oh, I've been waiting for you. I just practiced the whole hour waiting for you to say something.
Everybody needs to practice with Liliana. She is the bomb. Everybody's with her.
So what? Okay, let's talk about this, and we'll break down with Liliana. Let me ask this: what made her practice it like as her being the person saying stuff, or her like? So all right, so don't take this the wrong way, Liliana. When people come and they role play really good races, we don't take it personally. Like that just means we know you've been listening, right? So a lot of times people get fragile. Let me ask Liliana, as you bring brand new to this, having had the background, what was it like? First of all, I just jump in so well with it, but what was it like, I guess, kind of be that person being questioned by this?
Yeah, so I'm the director of our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at a predominantly white STEM research university. So I hear a lot of this stuff. And I also engage a lot in social media circles around, social justice. So I was telling them I was just emulating the white mom at the school board hearings who's just not interested in CRT, but also hasn't actually read the book. I've actually studied critical race theory in my master's program and have actually read the text. So I think that is always an annoying part for me. So it was kind of interesting to play the other side of it. Having a theater background helps as well, for sure.
So as you were role playing it, what was the experience like? Did it make it difficult for you, or did you have to go deeper? Like what was the experience like when getting hit with these questions from Marcus?
Yeah, Marcus did a really great job, like Marianne said, of just like asking great questions about how I felt and how I thought. And did I think other people unanimously think and feel the same way as me, which any rational human that you're talking to should know that that's not true. Right. And I think I did feel like, okay, well, I have to start thinking more about this. I have to maybe think more critically because I was taking this from the perspective that this parent who I was playing is really coming from a place of fear. Yeah, right. It's fear of the unknown. It's protection of my child. It's all of that. And so how are his questions allowing my cortisol levels to like go down, and feel like this is a safe conversation. I don't have to be on the defensive.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, welcome to A Long Talk. I'm glad you got a great room, because those are some great folks that do this. All right. Other thoughts from other rooms? Questions, comments, anything that came out of those practice sessions from the other groups?
On that topic of fear, I was curious because I think a lot of times when we, are reactionary instead of responsive, or we're saying things we're not clear about, like there is a fear. There's some fear behind what we're saying. So I didn't know if that kind of fit along that first line of level of questioning about clarifying, if there's a way to ask that without it feeling like attacking, I'm wondering if there's some like fear behind. I don't know how I would ask it in a way that might pull that out of someone.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think you hit it though. I think when people are if someone makes a comment and then they have a fear of getting attacked or judged, when you open with a question, you're literally saying, I'm open to hear what before I judge you, before you should get afraid. I'm actually open to hear more about what you're saying. So people shouldn't be afraid of curiosity unless they try to have something to hide. Right. So I think I think it breaks down your fear of having to know the right thing to say. Because I can honestly, I want you to, when someone makes a comment, I want you to go into like astonishment mode. I want you to imagine I've never heard anything this crazy before. So let me find out as much as I can about what is causing this words to come out of your mouth. But if we go in thinking, oh, here we go, I gotta you're eventually gonna run into that battle because you're gonna be trying to tell them what you think they know. And you don't know what they know. You don't know if it's the one. See, the whole part of the critical thinking question, and I love this part of what Liliana said, is that we want them to move from emotion to critical thinking. That is like a key element to this, because emotionally, no one moves other than deeply embeds down. Like we protect our emotional conversations with defensiveness. Right? It's just a natural space that we're in. If you've never been challenged before, imagine asking one of your best friends to clarify a joke that she's been telling you for 20 years. It's not her fault that she's confused as to what the hell is going on. Like, you just sat with me for 20 years and then questions. Now all of a sudden you got on Zoom for 2 hours and you want to ask me about some questions? Like that's not even fair without you totally saying, you know what, I've been sitting next to you, but I don't know why you think that's appropriate. So let me give you the space and the grace to listen, to ask, to share, to try to find out what is going on. But when we stand up, and that's why people get called words, what do they call, not pietists, but that you think you're better than people. So the same people you've been talking to the whole time, now you come back, well, I think we should not be anti-racist and we should not be racist. Like, yeah, don't just blend in with questions. Hey, tell me why we think that's funny again. Like, I know you've been telling me that joke for 10 years, but help me with why we think that's funny, because it's not funny to me anymore for some reason. So please fill me in on what we've been laughing at. You see what I mean? Like, total curiosity eliminates a lot of the fear of you having to know it, and the fear of them thinking you do know it, that you're going to come tell me everything I know. Just be curious. That's good, though. Other questions, other thoughts, other comments that these are good. This is all good for the group. Polly, what are you thinking about?
I feel so freaking called out is what I feel.
you had a look as an inquisitive. I said, let me just see. And you can say none of your business, Kyle. That's
no,
fine.
I'm totally an open book. It doesn't bother me, but I'm gonna give you crap right back, okay? Because that's just my nature. But I shared with the other two people in the group that so one of them asked the question about why is there Pride Month anyway on our list. And then we had some dialogue, and then I shared that my niece posted yesterday on her. She often posts interesting things on her Instagram feed. Let's just put it that way. And she put, I went to Target a week ago and walked out when I saw a shirt in the kids section that said queer all over it, and tucking bathing suits for kids. I will not support this crap. And then hashtag ban Target, boycott Target. And she put something by Candace Owens, like referenced that, about, I cannot state enough how important this is for people to choose not to shop at Target. There has never been a company that has been more pro transgenderism than Target. Shop elsewhere. I actually was in Target like a week and a half ago, and I saw a whole section up front in as I walked in that was about Pride Month. I was like, wow, this is like the freaking coolest thing ever. And that's coming from a straight white woman. Okay. So it's like, but I love that it's there and people coming into that space and feeling like, wow, I can find this stuff in my rural community. I really live in a rural place where, you know, we have 5 Black people maybe in our town. You know, I mean, there's very few people here. There's not a lot of diversity. But for her to post that, like, I want another thing, she says, I want to have this conversation with her, but I'm not even at a place where I can have rational discussion with her about this. So
if you don't mind, I thank you for the share. I'm sitting here writing questions for this. You said this was your daughter that did you say your daughter?
This is my niece.
Your niece.
Yes.
So, well, first of all, does anyone have, if that was your situation, does anyone have an opening question for that conversation? Does anybody have a thought of something you might share to help clarify what this person is stating in this post?
You mean questions for the niece or
Yes,
questions?
a question, yeah, a good CPR protocol question to get us started that you might ask the niece to get us started on this conversation.
I mean, could you start out just saying what upsets you about seeing that shirt in Target?
Yeah, like where, because that's definitely something that, yeah. What exactly is it that upsets you about this? Yeah, absolutely. That would be one good. Any other thoughts about a good lead-in question for that?
Shit.
Yeah, I know. I do believe you can't end racism without cursing, right? Yeah, I do know that, right?
Yeah.
That's my personal one.
Get back to the meeting. It's
One of my
still
you're
showing
good, Judith. If you're still here, we got you.
Yeah.
She can't mute herself. Judith
I
can't.
got it. I muted it. All right.
I feel like what her response to that is that this goes against what God believes.
Okay. So this will be and that's why I love it. I follow up. And so my question would be, so you think we should protest everything that goes against what God believes? That we should boycott? I'm sorry, boycott was the word. Do you think we should boycott everything that goes against what God believes? That'll be my follow-up question to that.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you think she would say to that one?
I don't know.
But now here's the thing. You see where I'm leading her with I'm challenging her logic, right? Because there are movies every day that come out that God would that flaunt. You know what I'm saying? Like we live in a culture that doesn't focus on what God believes ever, really, until it's important. So the question that you throw out is, again, why is this one, right? Because that's a general answer that I can have covering in the Lord. But I want to know for you personally, like that's a great, and those are questions that truly I want you to be like, that's a straight, because I'm curious about her. I don't know her like you know her, right? So that would be a question that easily would be something that I would be able to ask. Mm-hmm. Because and that question allows her to see this, again, in a rational moment, the chasm, the schism that's supposed to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense what I just said. Because I just went to go watch a movie that God definitely probably doesn't believe in. You know what I'm saying? Like I just paid money to go support something that God clearly doesn't believe in. So that's is the glitch in the matrix, right? Those are the kind of questions I want you to be able to ask. When it comes to the feeling question, I might add, what I wrote down was, if everyone everywhere had a place where they felt included, would you have a problem with that? I'm trying to get to the root cause of your issue, that you just don't want people to feel included. Because here's the craziest part about the whole trans thing that nobody wants to talk about. Because basically what happened is we pushed the limit of people's tolerance and sensitivity, because everybody's cool with the L's, everybody's cool with the G's, everybody's cool with the B's even. But once these T's showed up, even the moderate people were like, this is too much for me. So they had to decide, where's my line in acceptance? I've literally had this conversation where people who are very moderate are like, but why people got to do this? It's the same reason they did the L, the G, and the B. It's what they do. It's their thing. So either we accept everybody's thing or we're not accepting it. Just because it gets further from your thing is where your line is drawn. And people that's the logic gap that most people have, is that Most people, that Park has been putting up the L's and the G's and all that for years, and nobody said anything. But when it comes to trans and drag shows, that is way too much in America. So that's where we want to ask questions that lead them to understand the idiosyncrasy in that. Like, that's just dumb. Or it's just telling of how much I'm willing to accept. Because that's when you can help people understand that when they roll it back to, that's how it rolled back from Black people and disabled people. Like, everybody had a limit on how far I'm willing to go. And we get mad because some people only have this little limit, right? They're not, but then we call ourselves moderate and go to this far. But either you're liberal and you understand you're going to let people live, or you're not at some point. And that's the argument America's having with itself right now. Because even the people that are supportive are like, it's going too far. What does that even mean? But that's the question I need people to have to answer is, what is your limit on this? And so I would ask that question. Are you good if it was just lesbian and gay material up there? Like, the tucked underwear is where you draw the line. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to ask that question, like, so you understand how when it was, I'm good with everybody, with the Italians, with the Irish, but I just would draw the line when it comes to Black people. I'm just drawing the line there. Like, it's the same spirit. So people have to just understand that they're just making a choice. So those are the questions we want to ask them, is to draw them into the bigger part of this. That's good, though. I like that. Because this is one that's right up in the front right now, every day, all day. But we got to stop arguing about the nuances of it and get people to get questions that cut to the chase. Like, either claim you don't believe in these people, or you do. And then I know you don't have to keep going back on every issue. I know where you stand. That's
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Calling me out.
No, but I'm glad I'm glad for pulling you in, because that was a good scenario, and it was a real time scenario. And I know our time, I always get most of the time to go. But does anyone else have another one real quick that they want? And people can fall off at any point. I always like to end on time, but I actually don't have another call till 1:15. So does anyone have another scenario or a question or whatever that we can discuss? It's open floor. Anybody have a suggestion? Anyone need a practice partner? I think it's important. And I'll say this because when you teach this to someone, you get much better. So you have a protocol study guide. I'll make sure we email it out to you, but it'll also, it's real simple. I'll put it in the chat for you right now in case you can grab it. It's just tinyurl.com/CPR Prot. So you can go, oops, I should have put it with no space. Hold on. Give it to you. url.com CPR protocol. All right. So yeah, so thank you guys for another practice. This is what we do. So this will be recorded. It'll be put up in the universe. If anyone wants to add anything, or anyone, if anyone's sticking around for a couple minutes, please, anyone want to say anything before we go? All right, Marcus, good to see you guys. But if not, we're good to go. Anybody? We're good. We're all good. Good to see you guys. Thank you as always. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Take care.